B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here on our Tuesday night Milchemet AMLEK, War of Amalek series, which, Baruch Hashem, we have the merit to return to it. It's been quite some time since we've read the holy words of Rabbeinu, Rav Elchonon Wasserman. Tonight's Shiur is for the Refuah Shlema and Hatzlacha Rabbah, and also a very big Mazal Tov to my very dear parents for their 50th year anniversary tonight. Baruch Hashem, half a century together, Baruch Hashem, and still going, and B'ezrat Hashem, a lot more Hatzlacha, a lot more good health, and a lot of good blessings, B'ezrat Hashem, to them. Avimelech David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and also for the Refuah Shlema and Hatzlacha Rabbah for our dear Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Ovadia ben Levana, Yosef ben Levana, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides that continue to learn with us and support the organization, that we could continue to do all the amazing things that we're doing, Baruch Hashem, with the Avraham, the Kollels in Eretz Yisrael, which by now we have 2 full-time Kollels, and 1 night kollel, 3 different locations, and Baruch Hashem, it's going strong, and B'ezrat Hashem will continue. We have a 4th one that we're also have been working with over the last 6 months or so, or 5 months or so. So Baruch Hashem, lots of Torah, lots of kiruv. There's a lot of products that we are on the way, books that are on the way, and other things, B'ezrat Hashem, that we're going to continue doing all the distribution everywhere. So anyone that wants to donate can donate at be'ezrathashem.org. And if you want to get some of the Asher Yatzar boxes or books to distribute in your community for free, or the USBs, you can go to kiruvstore.org. Kiruvstore.org. It's the name is going to be on the bottom of the screen at some point when we publish this on YouTube. And as far as donations, a couple of you have asked me this question in regards to donations with Bitcoin and checks and everything else, but some people have asked me if they could donate stuff. So we actually do have a few people that over the years, several people over the years that have donated different precious metals and jewelry and watches and stuff like that. That since we have family in the business, it's very easy for us to not have to break our heads to try to find somebody to not rip us off. So if you want to donate that, that's also something that we could accept as well, if you want to send those as well. Either way, whatever you can do to help the organization, certainly we'd appreciate it. We have, Baruch Hashem, great volunteers and workers and team members that are all doing their best to get more and more Torah around the world. Now, with the series at hand, really it's one of the things that has amazed me over the years of studying the holy words of Rav Elchonon Wasserman is literally how I'd like to say seemingly prophetic his words were. I mean, it's seemingly, I'm only saying simply because our Torah tells us that prophecy ended after, right before the end of the destruction of the second Bet HaMikdash. But of course we know that the Ruach HaKodesh is still in the world to this day. But sometimes there are certain words that tzaddikim say or write that seem a whole lot more than Ruach HaKodesh. Not that Ruach HaKodesh is not enough, but it's literally, you read their words and you're starting to look for them to see where they are, if they're watching the news, if they're in the world today, even though in many cases a century or more has passed. And the same goes with Rav Elchonon Wasserman's words, whether it's the first series that we did several years ago, which was called The Era of Mashiach, about 30 or so lectures that talk about what's the world going to look like before Mashiach comes, or it's the next stage, the War of Amalek series that we've been doing over the past year, where each time we read another segment and study with you guys another segment of this relatively unknown writings of Rav Elchonon Wasserman, because he connected it to his commentary on the Masechet in the Gemara. Still, you see that the words of the tzaddik are very much, alive and well today, and more clear today than ever before. And tonight is going to be no exception. Really, the topic at hand is something that's on many people's mind, which is in regards to the leadership that's in the world today. Now, I know that we've gone through this stupid phase where during the Corona times, where everyone was constantly talking about the New World Order and all of these different leaders that are behind the scenes trying to take over the world. This is, first of all, it's nothing new. There's always been somebody trying to take over the world. But the amount of attention that they got in the Torah world is, beyond ridiculous. Anyone that wanted to make themselves a name and to get a bunch of different people that don't understand really what the Torah is for, and they wanted to get them to get some views, did a lecture or a video about the New World Order. But the truth be told is that the media has, made things very different than they were in the past. In the old days, you would get news once in a while about what's happening in the, city across the river. Once in a while, you'd get some news about what's happening in a different country. It wasn't obviously anything like today where everything is real-time news. As soon as somebody sneezes, the whole world knows about it, and there's 15 different pictures about it. Some of them are made by artificial intelligence, and some of them are, made by Photoshop. And you're not even sure which one is real, which one is not. But the reality is, Rabotai, that the news in the last year or so, and especially in the last several months since Donald Trump took the presidency seat again in his second term, the news has obviously been much more rampant than ever before, not just in regards to America, but Israel, Ukraine, all the different things that are happening around the world, and in such a way where it seems like there's a constant barrage of nerve-wracking news coming every day. In the past, there usually would be, one type of a headache coming from the media every week. Other times it would be a little bit more often, but today it seems like every single day there is literally breaking news that have an actual impact on the world, have an actual impact on your day-to-day life, or at the very least, that's what the media makes it seem like. And it's different political issues, different global issues, whether it's the war or it's the tariffs. There's a lot of stuff going on over there, and what's happened is that while this really shouldn't matter to a Torah Jew that's supposed to be focused on Torah, it ends up mattering to them because you see that it's impacting your day-to-day life. It's impacting when you go to the grocery store, and now in America you have to pay, $10 for a dozen eggs. Something that is unheard of just a few years ago. You have to pretty much guess whether you're going to be able to afford a house and that you that you need for your family, because your lease is coming up, or the house that you're living in is just simply too small, because the prices have skyrocketed. You're having issues, if you have investments in the stock market, you're not really sure whether the bubble has officially burst or it's just another bump in the road where it's taking one step back before it takes another few steps forward, even though it's already been on a bull run for double the amount of what's normally these types of things take place. Usually there's a market correction every 7 years. The market has been going pretty much straight up for something around 16 years. So it's what's happening right now, where there's a correction and the market has gone down almost, especially certain companies and have gone down significantly in the last few weeks. People are, on one end, they're seeing that there is major crisis in certain companies where they're going down. But as far as the economy is concerned, people are mixed about it, because you're still seeing, big deals happen. Like, for example, today, Google announced that they're buying a technology company named Wiz that was founded by a group of Israelis that are located in America. And for $32 billion. These types of transactions usually don't happen in a market that has blown up. Usually these types of things happen, during a bull market, during good times. And you're seeing a bunch of different things happen. So, it's you can't look for the news to see the truth. So what ends up happening is that a lot of people are looking for their friends. They're looking for their peers. They're looking for different opinions. And what I've noticed is that everyone has an opinion about every leader that's out there, that's in the headlines, whether it be a leader domestically or internationally. And what ends up happening also is that many of the Torah groups that you have on WhatsApp and on Facebook and different places have actually turned into almost like political news groups. Somebody added me to some group, which Baruch Hashem I've exited out of it after a few days, because I just simply couldn't take the nonsense. Because I was told it was a news, it was a Torah group. It has, thousands of people in it, which is always great. If you could post in a place like that to share Torah, it's great. But you go into this group and you see that literally every few minutes they post another news article about politics. I'm not really sure why this is called the Torah group, why it's even called a Jewish group. But every 2 seconds you have another news article about whether it's Trump or it's Elon Musk or it's, tariffs or it's something. It's like literally there's more news in these so-called Torah groups than there is news in the media. Every article. I don't even know how the administrators even have time to read all this stuff. But every 2 seconds, there's more news. And why is there more news? Because that's really what, a lot of the people are looking for. People want more news. They want to know what's going on. Why? Because there's just so much, going on out there. There's every 2 seconds, there's a new rule, there's a new law, there's a new conviction, there's a new exposure, there's a new something. And people are constantly on their feet and looking for when's the next shoe going to drop on something. And the thing is, though, is that the Torah understands, obviously, the creation, understands the mindset of people, and the Torah also has an opinion. Only difference is, this is the opinion of God, which means that it's the only one that's always right. And the Torah's opinion about what our ideology is supposed to be, what our mindset is supposed to be, what our perspective is supposed to be, not just about the news, but about leaders, is of paramount importance, especially today. And Rav Elchonon Wasserman's seemingly prophetic words are going to show us again the right perspective and answer the questions about who is the right leader, who does the Torah deem to be the right fit to be a leader, whether it be the leader of Israel or the world or whatever it is. The danger of bad leaders. We're not just talking about bad politicians, but it could also be even bad dayanim, bad rabbis. And what really our ideology is supposed to be when it comes to how we talk about them. Because unlike the past, where people were very afraid of sharing their opinions about leaders, because that could easily mean a death penalty. In the generation of so-called free speech, people share the most horrific opinions publicly about their own leaders, even in front of their faces, with what seems to be no consequence. So much so that in my opinion, the most hideous structure of government on planet Earth, which is in Israel, you see that any time that they publicize some type of congressional meeting or one of these clown shows where they have a bunch of people that are supposed to sit down and then have one guy discuss his point or one woman discuss her point, you literally have a shouting match and cursing and different threats and walking out, and just a constant disgrace to mankind, needless to say, to the state of Israel. And this public, expression of disregard for anything decent has become a standard. It's accepted. It's standard. It's this is the way it is. There is no such thing as it not being this. It's not a one-time thing. It's a standard thing. It's a something that is becoming standard in many other places. People think that they're not only do they have the right to be heard, but in fact they feel like people have an obligation to hear them, no matter what they say. Somehow people value their opinions a whole lot more than what they're really worth. And the Torah has a lot to say about this. A lot to say about how we're supposed to really communicate, especially when it comes to, living in the exile, which we're all living in the exile. Even if you're living in Israel, it's still technically considered the exile right now because of the leadership that's there. And whether you're interested in the Torah or you're interested in the political world, the Shiur is certainly going to inform you about some things that you need to know, and perhaps are going to even impact your worldview perspective. So Rav Elchonon Wasserman, in section number 18, after telling us and warning us of how to deal with this war of Amalek that we are facing, that the only tool to fight Amalek is a spiritual tool, not a physical tool. All the weapons in the world, all the missiles in the world, the airplanes in the world, and the money in the world is not going to help you in this war of Amalek. The only thing that's going to help you is more Torah. But of course, to have more Torah, you need more people to understand and believe that the Torah is the priority, and instead of investing more money and getting themselves more bags and watches and cars and different types of investments into this world, people need to obviously invest more into the Torah. But nonetheless, the warning is clear that Rav Elchonon Wasserman is telling us that this war is something that we have to deal with. There is no way around it. Before Mashiach comes, the world is going to go to the worst spiritual level in the history of mankind. And while Am Yisrael was in the 49th level of impurity, when we were in Egypt, surrounded by immorality and idolatry, only a sin away from being destroyed with the rest of the world, if we reach the 50th level, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh tells us that the world will reach the 50th level. Am Yisrael will reach the 50th level, meaning the worst possible level we can get to, a level that technically is supposed to lead to complete destruction. But the only reason why the destruction will not happen, or at least not complete destruction, is because we have a way out of it, which is the Torah. And the Torah is going to be able to save some people. And we've discussed many times the war of Gog and Magog. We had a whole lecture about it. during Hoshana Rabbah, for anyone that wants to know some of the details of what the sages tell us about what's going to happen in this war of Gog and Magog. But this is not the part we're going to talk about tonight. Tonight, Rav Elchonon Wasserman wants to inform us about who is fit to lead Israel or the world. And he says as follows, V'ine dina Torah b'zeh yadua. He says this is a law of the Torah, and it's a well-known law. Ki kol adam she'en bo yirat Shamayim, en memanim oto l'shum minui beYisrael. Anyone that does not have Yirat Shamayim, fear of heaven, we are forbidden from putting him in a position of power over Am Yisrael in any way, shape, or form. Not a king, not a politician, not a teacher, not a dayan, not a rabbi, nothing. Why? He's missing the key ingredient in order to qualify to be a teacher. Now, he says this is a well-known law, meaning it's not an opinion, it's not an ideology, but rather it's a law. And he brings the Rambam in Ilchot Melachim, in chapter 1, Halakha number 7. And the Rambam says as follows. The source of it, from where the Rambam got it, is what it says in Parashat Shoftim, where Kadosh Baruch Hu talks about how a king has to have 2 Sifrei Torah. One of them he has to have on him at all times to constantly remind him of Yirat Shamayim, fear of heaven. But furthermore, he says, when a king is appointed, he's anointed with oil reserved for this purpose. As it says in the book of Samuel, Samuel 1, chapter 10, verse 1, and Shmuel took the cruse of oil and poured it over his head, and then he kissed him. Once a king is anointed, he and his descendants are granted the monarchy until eternity. For the monarchy is passed down by inheritance, as the Torah itself says in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 17, verse 20, thus he, meaning the king and his descendants, will prolong their reign in the midst of Israel. And if the king leaves only a son, young son, the monarchy should be held for him until he matures, as Yoyada did for Yoash. The order of inheritance of the monarchy is the same as that governing the inheritance of property. An older son is given precedence over the younger one. Not only the monarchy, but all other positions of authority and appointments in Israel are transferred to one's children and grandchildren as inheritance forever. So this first part is in essence telling us how not just the monarchy, but any position of power is handled according to HaShem. Furthermore, says the Rambam, the above applies if the knowledge and the fear of God of the son is equivalent to that of his ancestors. Here, for the first time, he's mentioning the qualifications that are required by this authority. And again, this applies to whether it be a king, a president, a dayan, a rabbi, or any person in a position of power, position of authority. If his fear of God is equivalent to theirs, but not his knowledge, he should be granted his father's position and given instruction. Meaning, if he is knowledgeable, but nowhere near as wise as his father, but he still has the fear of God, like his father, then he still qualifies to be a king, meaning that you don't have to be a genius to be an authority, but you do have to have fear of God. You have to have Yirat Shamayim. However, says the Rambam, under no circumstances should a person who lacks the fear of God be appointed to any position in Israel, even though he possesses much knowledge. Meaning, even if the person is an absolute genius, revolutionary, IQ off the charts, the world has never seen such a smart person. He's smart and he's rich and he knows everything about everything. But he's missing fear of God. He's missing the Yirat Shamayim. The Torah decrees he is forbidden, and we are forbidden from allowing him to have any authority over Am Yisrael. Now, this obviously only pertains to Jewish leaders. This is not pertaining to non-Jews that are beyond our control. But the point being here is that in the world today where Yirat Shamayim, the fear of God, has become almost like a insult or a derogatory thing to have or to even speak about, we actually see that the reason why people are told that fear of God is something that you don't need to concern yourself with, you should be focused on love of God, and all types of other false teachings that people say, whether they call themselves rabbis or not, is because they themselves, those people themselves that are saying this, don't have fear of God. And that's why they speak against it. You know, I was sent a video by somebody, a student of mine just the other day, of some relatively well-known rabbi who tries to provoke people's, I guess, their attention or whatever by saying he doesn't believe in God, he believes in HaShem, and those are two different things, whatever. You know, in my opinion, a very foolish thing to say and to even try to explain, but nonetheless, that wasn't really the thing that bothered me the most when I watched some of to see what's behind this this so-called provocative statement. What bothered me the most is that at some point this rabbi said, "Listen, this when the somebody was interviewing him, saying, listen, it's the teachings of punishment, Gehenom, Kafakela." All these horrible things are very detailed in the Torah. It's not like some parable. It's not a foreign belief. This is the foundation of the Torah. So what do you say about that? Because you're saying that, not to teach fear. He said, no, that was for a different generation. This generation is not going to accept teachings about fear. Now, aside from the fact that what he said is heretical, because one of the 13 principles of faith is that Zotah Torah v'lo tiyeh muchlefet, that this is the Torah and it'll never be changed. The Torah that we got on Mount Sinai is the same Torah that we have today, and it'll never change. Not a single word, not a sentence, not a paragraph, nothing. Everything is exactly the same. And the fact that there are certain people that maybe are more inclined to listen to some parts of the Torah than they are the others does not change the Torah itself. And for him to say that people shouldn't teach that way and shouldn't talk that way is not only wrong, but it's actually part of the problem that we have today, where people think that learning about what the Torah says in practically every parasha in the Torah, about punishment and how HaShem destroyed the world at the time of Noach, punished Adam HaRishon right off the bat when he violated his decree not to eat from the tree of knowledge. He constantly reminds us to listen to him, or else there's going to be consequences. Or even if it's simply just looking at the world today, and whether you're looking at the world at large and you're seeing what happened to us on October 7th, or what's happening to us every single day in Israel and around the world with anti-Semitism at all-time highs, or it's happening in people's lives. People getting sick, people losing their money, people getting divorces, all types of horrible things happening everywhere. You see that there is punishment, there is suffering, there is difficulties. And to just simply ignore that and say, no, you shouldn't talk about that, it's literally ignoring the elephant in the room and pretending that there's only cats. It's bizarre. But the reason why people are doing this is because since they themselves do not have fear of God, the evil inclination is in full control of them, and therefore builds them a stage with a understanding and a motto that they have to speak against the fear of God to get more people to join them. When in fact, the Rambam, the foundation of halakha, the foundation of Judaism, is telling us whether you are a king or you are a simple rabbi to a bunch of 4-year-olds, if you do not have fear of God, you are not allowed to be in that position. Every minute that you are in that position, you're violating the Torah. Every minute that you are in that position, those who put you in that position are violating the Torah. And only bad can come out of it. So the Rambam is in essence not giving us an ideological lesson here, but rather telling us the law of the Torah. That under no circumstance should a person who lacks in the fear of God be appointed to any position in Israel, even though he possesses much knowledge. Meaning, even if he has written 50 books, even if he's a bestseller on the New York Times and the Gehenom Times, even if he has something to say about everything, even if he has great connections, even if people like him, even if people vote for him, even if he lacks fear of God, it's forbidden for Am Yisrael to allow him to lead us in any position of authority. Now, if you fast forward in Ilchot Melachim, from chapter 1 that we're in now to chapter 11, you'll actually notice what the ultimate leader, the Mashiach, will have to do in order to even be qualified to be a Mashiach. Meaning that before he's decreed that he is Mashiach, he has to be in what's called Cheskat Mashiach, meaning that he has to be qualified to be Mashiach. You can't just say, oh listen, because we like him, therefore he is going to be Mashiach. Or because he's famous, therefore he is going to be Mashiach. Doesn't work that way. And in chapter 11, Halakha number 4, it tells us, aside from being from the house of David, and one who diligently contemplates the Torah and observes the mitzvot, meaning he has to be religious, extremely religious, a Talmid, someone that's very, very committed to learning Torah, Talmid Chacham. He has to observe the mitzvot. He can't be reformed, can't be conservative, can't be modern, can't be anything what the Torah says. He has to follow Torah. He has to be the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation. Doesn't say he has to be famous. Doesn't say he has to have a YouTube channel. Doesn't say he has to be 20 feet tall. No. It says that he has to be from the house of David, contemplate the Torah and observe the mitzvot as prescribed by the written law and the oral law, just like David HaMelech, his ancestor, did. And this Mashiach, says the Rambam, has to do kiruv. He compels all of Israel to walk in the way of the Torah and to rectify the breaches in its observance, and fights the wars of God. Then we may consider with assurance that he's Mashiach. Meaning that in order for one to even qualify as someone that could be Mashiach, it's not enough that he studies a lot of Torah, even he knows the whole Torah, or no. It's not enough that he's from the house of David. It's not enough that he's fit. No. He has to help people do tshuva. He has to fight the wars of God. But the wars of God, as the Torah itself is called, the book of wars. What is the wars of God? The wars of God are the spiritual wars. And in order for one to fight the spiritual wars, that means that he must have Yirat Shamayim. He must have fear of God. Why? Because if you are afraid of what people are going to say, if you're afraid of whether you're going to be popular or unpopular, if you're afraid that they may invite you or not, or disinvite you, then you don't have fear of God. You have fear of people. You have fear of public opinion. You have fear of popularity. You have fear of bank accounts. You have fear of donations. But if a person fears God, that means that when he sees that there are breaches, just like the Rambam says, that Am Yisrael is violating the Torah, that is doing something wrong, whether it's corrupt businesses or corrupt ideology or whatever it is, he's going to fight to get people to do tshuva and spread the truth no matter what price it comes at. So first we know that, as Rav Wasserman quotes the Rambam, that in order for one to be a leader, to be in a position of authority, according to the Torah, they must have fear of God. They must have fear of God. And for those that are constantly thinking about Mashiach, if the rabbi or leader or whatever you are assuming someone is fit to be Mashiach does not have Yirat Shamayim, you could already know with absolute certainty that they're not Mashiach. And they're not fit to be Mashiach. They're not even fit to be a leader of 10 school children. Because fear of God is the absolute requirement of any position of authority. Now, Rav Wasserman continues and says, what happens, the ifsed, the loss that we get when we do not pick leaders in accordance with the Torah that have fear of God, is something we see immediately. Why? כי אנחנו מאשרים ומקיימים את הזיוף. Because when we put people that do not have fear of God in a position of authority, whether it be a president or it be a school teacher, and that person does not have fear of God, then by putting him in a position of authority, we are authorizing and enabling the ziyuf, the fake news, the lies. In so many words, we're giving kashrut to a pig. And then he says, that by giving them a position of power, a position of authority, the Jews are, in essence, increasing that person that lacks fear of God. They're increasing that person's responsibility over them. And in so many words, by increasing their responsibility over them, over us, over the Jewish people, we're saying that they are the right person to be the shaliach, the messenger, the representative of the Jewish community. והעבירה הזאת, מתן שכרה בצדה, and this sin of enabling people that lack fear of heaven to be leaders is a sin that we actually see the outcome of it in real time. כי הם משתמשים בכוח שניתן להם מאיתנו לבזותנו ולהשפילנו עד לעפר וגם להלשין עלינו בסתר ובגלוי. Because these wicked people, since they're not afraid of God, they're not afraid of anyone. So even though the Jewish community put them in power to be the rabbi, the dayan, the politician, the president, the whatever it is, because they thought that he's, okay, he may not be religious or he may not have any concern whatsoever about the 13 principles of faith, or even one of them, still he's a good leader, he's a good speaker, he's rich, he's connected, whatever other excuse people use. And they think that good will come out of this. Says Rav Elchonon Wasserman, the Torah promises us that only bad will come out of this. Why? Because these people will end up using the power that we give them to insult us, to degrade us all the way to the dust, and even to inform on us behind our backs and even in the open. Now, to put things in perspective, sometimes it's good to give examples, real life examples. Some years ago, there was a Rasha named Michael Aminov. Who I found out was not only a wicked, false teacher, claims to be a rabbi, has a shul in Arizona, but he took it up a notch where he even partnered up with Christian missionaries that were pretending to be Jews, and not only knew about it, but actually helped them to the extent where he made a bet din, where they were the dayanim. They were doing brit milah. They were, doing the weddings for people. They were shechting the meat. Literally, anyone that ate the meat, ate tarif. He himself would slaughter animals and give people parts of the meat, the chelev, that you're not allowed to eat. And we exposed this Rasha, and Baruch HaShem, and it made enough commotion that some people understood that to stay away from him, but he sends me messages till this day, every single day he sends me messages, the Rasha. He didn't give up. Because he still has some supporters, unfortunately. Some people that are ignorant or careless or both that still support him. Not as much as the past, but nonetheless, to a certain extent, he's still there. And a lot of people don't realize that the things we highlighted were just bits and pieces of the damage that he was causing. The immense amount of damage that he has caused and continues to cause is much, much greater than that. There's not enough time in a lecture to even explain what wicked teachers, what false teachers, what heretics do. Literally, to explain the damage that a person can cause by being a heretic, the world would end and you wouldn't have enough time to explain the damage, because it's a domino effect. But as you would have it, more people come to me and they ask me different questions, and I try to guide them to the best of my ability. But just in the last recent times, somebody came to me with different issues and so on, and then you find out that this person has a lot of major issues, health problems, like literally wealth of problems. So much so that even though they consider themselves religious, there are members of the family that have accustomed themselves to eating non-kosher food. Like, why would you, and still consider themselves religious? Now, by non-kosher food, I don't mean like they go and eat pig or they eat McDonald's. But non-kosher food meaning that they eat at secular people's houses without any concern whatsoever, or they do different things that, in so many words, are either outright violations of the Torah or, at the very least, not appropriate behavior, but it's an escalating thing. So where did this all start? And you find, the more questions you ask, the more you talk to people, we find out what ends up happening. You find out these people are victims of Aminov. They used to eat his taref meat. They used to be part of his keilah. They used to be part of all the lies. And they told me more and more things. The guy literally would force people to celebrate Brit Milah on non-Jewish kids. Say Kaddish on people that were intermarried and complete heretics. All types of things that are literally against halakha, against tradition, against custom, against everything. He would feed them non-kosher meat and just say, no, it's good, it's okay, I sanctified it. The craziest things in the world. And now, a few years have passed, and you see these people are suffering as a result of it. Some parts of the family are off the derech. Some parts of the family are very, very sick, literally on their deathbed. Some parts of the family are, all these issues, and they're like, what happened? Why? We're nice people, we keep Shabbat. What you don't understand is that when a person becomes part of a heretic's list of victims, unless you absolutely uproot yourself from there, the damage simply continues. It's no different than cancer. Unless you completely uproot it, it continues to grow and kill the person. There was a event I was told about that there's going to be a bunch of rabbis, dayanim, that are going to discuss laws of business. I was invited to go, and looked at it, and I see, wait a minute, who are they going to have speaking? And I see that they're going to have certain people that not only should not be speaking, but rather should be spoken about because they're heretics, because they're Reshaim, because they're corrupt, because they partner up with missionaries, with the enemies. But people don't care. So you have a rabbinical event where some of the keynote speakers are people that are literally destroying the spiritual status of Am Yisrael. Now sometimes you say, okay, maybe this is one event, another event. But what I'm trying to tell you is that just like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, just like the Arizal said, and many, many Chachamim said that before Mashiach comes, it's going to be hard to find people that have real fear of God, real Yirat Shamayim, real righteous people. Why? Not because they're just going to be so few, but rather because the wicked people are not going to be people walking around with like gangsters with knives and guns, and it's going to be clear that they're wicked. Some of the wicked people are going to pretend to be your friend, are going to pretend to be your helper, are going to pretend to be somebody that supports you. I have a student that literally told me this, and I couldn't believe it. Rabbi of his keilah pretends that he likes him, he supports them, he's this, he's that. He's his friend. But then, the moment that this poor guy's wife decides to go crazy, and she decides that she doesn't want to be married anymore, she takes her kid, they had a kid together, and she leaves. She leaves the house. She just leaves. She goes back to the Gehenom she came from, wants to hang out with her friends till 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, wants to do whatever she wants. And now, she even wants him to give her a get. Because her mindset is a goy's mindset. That if I don't want to be married, I can just leave, I can just do whatever I want. That's not how halacha works. When a Jew marries a woman, it's not like divorce in a secular world where if you don't like each other, you just split. It doesn't work that way. If he doesn't want to be with her anymore, under certain circumstances, sure, he could let her go. But if she just decides, I don't want to be married to this guy anymore, he doesn't have to let her go. Doesn't have to let her go. It doesn't work that way. But in this politically correct world where false leaders are constantly trying to kiss up to the public and pretend to be heroes, when this Reshait calls the local rabbis, instead of them investigating the issue, instead of them investigating the halacha, which really doesn't require much investigation, and literally in 2 seconds you'd see that he doesn't have to give her a get ever if he doesn't want to. What do? They choose, you're right, you don't want to be with him anymore. You stole his kid, he's never going to see the kid again? Sure, you should get the get, why not? You should get the get, you should get the money, you should get the get. You have rights. Like goyim, like literally, like worse than that. And what do? They start pressuring this poor guy. Listen, you got to give her a get. Why? Why do I have to give her a get? She stole my kid. She stole this. She ruined my life. Why do I have to give her a get? No. She doesn't want to be with you. You just got to give it to her. Listen, it's good for you. Just give it to her. And they start literally abusing this poor guy day and night. Calling, showing up. The same people that pretended to be his friends, pretended to be his rabbi, pretended to be his supporter, pretended. One after another, Rasha after another. No, listen, you have to, or else you have to go to Bet Din. Sure, let's go to the Bet Din. The Bet Din will tell you no. No, the Bet Din already says that you have to give. Why? Under what law? What Allah says I have to give her a get if she did all of that? She's a wicked woman. She's a Isha Moredet. She stole the kid. She ran away. I don't have to give her a get if I don't want to. The fact that she decided to leave, that's her problem. No, you have to give it to her. Listen, why? What Allah says I have to? They can't bring an Allah. But what can they do? They can abuse, they can insult, they can pressure. They send me messages non-stop. Oh, you have to influence him. I'm going to influence him. What, to hurt himself? After she destroyed his life, I'm going to influence? What, Allah, what are you talking about? And if you think, maybe it's just one rabbi that's, doesn't know or is clueless or is a bad guy. No. Literally every other day there was another new rabbi. And it continues to this day. This is not the only story, unfortunately. Every day there's another guy that joins our camp, joins the why? Because she's a woman, so it's the Me Too movement. What's the Me Too? She's always right. But she's wrong according to Torah. No, she's right though. And in today's world, she's right. What today's world? The Torah cannot change. Who made you a rabbi? Who made you a dayan? Who made you anything? You don't know anything. You're going against the Torah. You're apikos. But Rabotai Karim, this is happening. Any time in the world today, a woman wants to leave her husband in the Jewish world, it doesn't work with the secular world. There are certain rules. When yes, when no. But if she just decides, you know what, listen, I want a younger, richer man. I'm leaving, give me a divorce, give me a get. You don't have to give her a get. Yeah, but what about if she does it anyway and then there's going to be a mamzerim? That's her problem, it's not your problem. There are certain conditions, you don't have to give her a get, and in some cases, you shouldn't give her a get. As a punishment. But in today's world, what? How can you speak like that? You should give her a get. What is she going to be, a aguna for the rest of our life? She chose this life. She's the one that stole the kid. She's the one that disappeared. She's the one that didn't want to work things out. He never kicked her out. He never did anything bad to her. We're not the secular world or the Gentile world where it's people treat marriage like boyfriend-girlfriend. But unfortunately, when you have rabbis, even some of them calling themselves dayanim, that automatically choose the woman because they want to be heroes. They want to see, look, we are for the women. We're protecting the women. We don't want... They literally turn into every guy into a like an evil monster. But the halakha doesn't say that. Certainly there are cases where a guy has to give his wife a get. And for that, the Rambam himself says that even if you have to hit him, until he says yes, you do it. Because he really wants to give her a get, because that's the right thing to do. But there are certain cases that the halakha itself says, you don't have to give her a get. And in fact, you shouldn't give her a get. Why? She's wicked. Let her suffer from her own behavior. But when you have false leaders, reshaim, liars, with or without a beard and a hat, calling themselves Rosh Kolel or Dayan or Rabbi or Vakila and all types of things, the damage that it causes literally is innumerable. You cannot quantify it because the damage grows every day. Every day I hear more and more stories. More and more stories from different people, from London, from Florida, from New York, from Australia, from Israel, from Arizona, from literally all four corners of the world. Different people coming for different help, different guidance. And Baruch HaShem, we try to do whatever we can over the last decade to help as many people as possible. But unfortunately, sometimes the root of the problem is not even the person, it's not even what they do, but rather how they were misled. And to get a person out of that hole is much more difficult. Much more difficult. There was a Rasha, mayor of Tveria in Israel, Tiberius, did everything he possibly could to destroy the Torah, made public transportation, opened it up on Shabbat, made parties on Shabbat, literally promoted Chilul Hashem on a regular basis. Everything he could do to get people to abandon the Torah, he did. After years of fighting against the Torah, there was finally an opportunity to remove him from power. Rav Kook, Shichyeh, Bezat Hashem have refuah shlema, said we have to, replace him with somebody else. But since the secularism and heresy in the air has affected people to put a religious guy as a mayor, it's going to be a little difficult. So they supported a secular Israeli to be the mayor because he promised that he's going to undo all of these horrible things that the previous mayor did. He's going to shut down the parties on Shabbat, the public transportation, even though he himself is not religious. He's going to, respect the Torah. After all, this is Israel. It's not America. It's not Bangladesh. It's Israel. No problem to support the Torah. So Rav Kook supported him. Literally, got the religious community there to support him, to put him in power. But unfortunately, Rabotai Karim, just like Rav Elchonon Wasserman says, that these people that we put in power, when they don't have Yirat Shamayim, they're not allowed to be in power. And in fact, when it's even worse, when they are betrayers of HaShem, when they're not loyal to HaShem, they don't even keep Shabbat themselves, they don't keep the Torah themselves, then certainly they're not going to be loyal to you. And to everyone's dismay, especially Rav Kook, this mayor of Tveria, that after he got into power, he acted no different than the previous Rasha, continued the parties, continues everything. This made Rav Kook so sick, literally, he went to the hospital, broke his heart. But this is not new. This is not new. This is the mentality of the heretics throughout all of history. In Israel, it's pretty much it's the motto. Their idol, Ben Gurion, Shem Reshaim Yirkav. Before he would put into power, he obviously had to get supporters, other politicians to support him. So what did he say? So listen, you support me, my party, then I get your vote, I'll give you this job, I'll give you that job, I'll give you this job. That's how politicians work. That's how they get into a higher level of power, by getting others to support them. How do they get others to support them? By promising them, once you put me in this position of power, this position of authority, then I'll give you a better job, I'll give you more funding, I'll give you this role, I'll give you this, I'll give you that. So it's you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But Ben Gurion, after he got into power, he didn't do anything to what he said. So the people came to him, said, hey, you said that you're going to support the Torah, you're going to support Judaism, you're going to do all that thing. He says, yes, I made those promises, but I didn't promise that I was going to fulfill them. What? Yeah, I promised you that I was going to do all those things, but I didn't promise that I was actually going to do it. Literally, just justifying the lie. Justifying the lie. Giving a kashrut stamp for lying. So when somebody promises something, but then, after they get elected, after they get the position that they want, they don't deliver it. All they're doing is just following Ben Gurion. All they're doing is following what Ben Gurion told them. Ben Gurion says, yeah, I promised you all those things, but I didn't promise that I was going to do them. He put a kosher stamp on the lies. Now, today, unfortunately, many people act like this. Many people act like this. And that's why fear of God is of paramount importance. Because if the person is afraid to fight for the honor of God, to fight for the truth of the Torah, and he's afraid of people's opinions, he's afraid of popularity, then not only is he not fit to be Mashiach, but he's not even fit to be a leader of a small group of people in the Jewish world. This is the reason why Hashem said in the Torah, in Parashat Shoftim, in the 17th chapter, that even a king, who was a Jewish king, supposed to be the biggest tzaddik, biggest Yirat Shamayim, Talmid Chacham, David HaMelech. But even if he's great, and Hashem chose him to be king because he's so great, he has to be reminded of his obligation to Hashem and his fear of Hashem every single second. He has to have a Sefer Torah with him at all times. Because if he does not, it's downhill from there. As a side note, when you look at the non-Jewish kings, leaders, whatever it is, it's a very different world. First of all, the Jews don't really have even if they think they do, the power to put anybody, to put a president or not president. But you'll see that there is a significant difference. On one end, you have Bibi Netanyahu, who is a secular Jew, Mechalel Shabbat, supports Christian missionaries, has some of them working for him, speaks out of both sides of his mouth. On one end he promises, on the other end he says, I don't have to fulfill my promises, whatever is convenient for him. Only recently did he even start mentioning any type of honor to Hashem whatsoever, saying Baruch Hashem, but generally speaking, it's always honor to himself. On the other hand, Donald Trump constantly mentions that his belief in God, even though obviously he believes in a different religion altogether, and that's a issue of its own. But nonetheless, you see that this person, that his enemies did everything they possibly could to destroy him. During this presidency, after his presidency, they tried to arrest him, they tried to kill him. But Hashem protected him. I mean, you can see, it's as clear as day. 2 assassination attempts. At least ones that he knows about. Tried to put him in jail. One trial after another. The whole government against him.
Rav one time came to a community of Syrian Jews. Now, when you see that people have literally developed fears for everything. But the love is to an average person that has no conscience. And he knows that
how much I dislike TikTok. It just grows by the day. So Donald Trump, he constantly mentions his belief in God, his loyalty to God, and you see that Hashem actually is protected him. And now you see the things that he's doing. He's shaking up the system. He's fighting against the lies in the system of America. All of this, a fraudulent government transactions, the stealing of money, all the different horrible things. He's trying to fix the debt ceiling. He's just trying to do a lot of different things. And you have to really see, wow, this guy's actually trying to make a difference. He's trying to finally, do something different than all his predecessors. Well, all of his predecessors really were trying to make their name in whatever way they could without really upsetting anybody, without hurting the corrupt system, continue to enable different, parties to benefit from the corruption, from the stealing from the government, stealing from the people. But they would try to make their name by saying, doing something, whether it be a insurance for everyone, or dealing with some type of global issue, or pretending to create peace somewhere. But in reality, for decades upon decades, it's one president after another didn't really do much to change the system, to change the corrupt status quo. Because shaking up the system means you have to go to war with a lot of different people. But this guy is coming in, he's bringing in business people, smart people, successful people, whether it be the Elon Musk or some of the other people that are on the staff of Donald Trump, and literally he's doing everything he possibly can to shake up the system and actually change it. And I would say that despite the fact that it's certainly admirable to see somebody that's trying to change, or at the very least lower the level of corruption that's in behind the scenes, despite the risk, everything else, one thing that you could really appreciate here is the fact that, as arrogant as he is, which is unquestionable, he still reminds himself and the audience that God is above him. Something that you would expect really from a Jewish leader. Now, does that mean that everyone has to walk around with a Donald Trump hat and kiss up to him and say blessings for him, pray for him every day? No, not necessarily. Certainly wouldn't support the other side, but the point being is that whether a person is a Jewish leader or a non-Jew, they can be good, they can be bad. The attitude of the Torah has to still stand regardless. And what is that attitude? What is that perspective that the Torah is telling us? First, Rav Elchonon Wasserman is in essence telling us, if it's going to be a Jewish leader, someone that is going to be put in a position of power over Jews, as we've said already, he must have fear of God. He must have fear of God regardless of what position of authority he has, because if he fears God, then you have good things to expect from him. Why? Because even if somebody succeeds, that doesn't mean that they're not going to change. So for example, obviously, Donald Trump is trying to do a lot of different things. And if he succeeds in them, he's going to make his name part of U.S. history, unlike the vast majority of U.S. presidents and politicians that the vast majority of society does not even realize that they exist. If he succeeds in making this, this new economic policies of having the tariffs or eliminating the corruption and the stealing from the government for all this fake money that's being thrown around to different related parties, if he succeeds in these major endeavors that he has, he's going to put his name in history. And certainly during his lifetime, he's going to increase his arrogance even more. And he's going to think he is the greatest president ever, which may very well happen, at least in recent history, if he succeeds. Now, in the Jewish world, that cannot happen. Why not? Because if you pick a leader in accordance to the Torah, which means that regardless of what level of knowledge they have, obviously they have to be Torah observant, but regardless of what level of Torah knowledge they have, the main requirement for a leader is to have fear of God. Which means that if he has fear of God, and you put him in power, and he institutes new things, new ways, new whatever his strategies, and those things succeed. Those strategies, those plans succeed in a magnificent way. People make a lot of money as a result. People have a lot more ways to learn Torah, a lot more accessibility for Torah. They have more freedom. They have more, health. Whatever he's doing, whatever is, this guy's hypothetical situation, whatever he does succeeds, which means that he has brought an enormous blessing to the people. Naturally, just like the example we gave with Donald Trump, this success enables a person to become even more arrogant than what they were. Why? Because in their mind, it justifies. Oh, I already thought I was really good, and I proved that I was really good, so yeah, perhaps, people need to praise me even more, people need to worship me even more, people need to thank me even more. But in the Torah world, this cannot happen. Why? Because if this leader was chosen because he has Yirat Shamayim, because he has fear of God, that fear of God nullifies his desires and nullifies his feelings of arrogance. Because just like the fear of God will scare a person from committing any type of immorality, any type of adultery, any type of corruption, because he's afraid of being punished, he's afraid of being distant from God, so he's not going to do that. The same concept is applicable when it comes to arrogance. If he has real fear of God, he's not going to fall for the trap of arrogance, because he knows that God gave him everything he has, whether it be success or what seems to be like failure, whether it be good health or bad health, whatever it is. So the Torah is in essence not just giving us a solution for a election, but rather it's giving us a solution for success throughout the entire lifetime of this leader. If he has fear of God in the beginning, you could elect him. If he continues to have fear of God, then regardless of what level of success or failure he has, he's always going to be loyal to HaShem, and by being loyal to HaShem, by default, he's also going to be loyal to the people, to Am Yisrael. But if he's not loyal to HaShem, then certainly you could expect arrogance to be standard, corruption to be standard, immorality to become standard, betrayal of people to become standard. all of the horrible things. Why? Because there's nothing stopping him. The more authority you give him, the more you enable him to express his arrogance and his corruption in more different ways. That's why Rav Elchonon Wasserman says the first and foremost, you have to understand that there's a law in the Torah. In order for one to be in a position of authority, they have to have Yirat Shamayim. And when we elect someone, put somebody in power, without this, we are enabling the fakery, the corruption. We are giving life to corruption. Now, if someone were to think, well, but listen, this guy is bad and that guy is bad, but this is the lesser of two evils. There's a logic like that, where it's unfortunately a false logic many times, where there's a lesser of two evils. This guy is bad and that guy is bad. He is atheist and he is secular. He's not atheist, but he's secular. So we're not going to go with the atheist, the guy that says he's a girl. We'll go with the secular guy. That's a problem. Why? Because you're going to put him in power. You're going to tell the Jewish people that even though he's secular, even though he doesn't follow Torah, even though he doesn't keep Shabbat, he still can represent the Jewish people. Because you think that since he's the lesser of two evils, he's going to keep his promise by saying, since you scratched my back, since you supported me, I'm going to keep my word and support you when you put me after I'm in power. What you're not realizing is, since he is betraying God, he cannot be trusted. In fact, Avraham Avinu says to Avimelech, when Avimelech asked him, why did you not tell us that Sarah is your wife? If she's your wife, just tell us you're his wife. Avraham Avinu tells him plain and simple, I saw that there's no fear of God here, and therefore I concluded that if I tell you that she is my wife, you're going to kill me. Meaning, Avraham Avinu didn't skip a beat here, didn't mumble his words. He simply told him, the conclusion is, I saw that you don't fear God, therefore you will not have any problem, any qualms whatsoever about killing me just for the sake of taking my wife. Not, you're going to steal her, you're going to convince her, you're going to... No. Simple. You find out she's my wife, you'll kill me right off the spot. And the only reason why you're not killing me right now is because God got involved. That's the only reason. You're not killing me because you suddenly found out she's my wife and you feel bad. No, the only reason why you're not killing me right now is because you have fear of God, because God got involved. Shutting off all the orifices of all of the of Avimelech and everybody in his kingdom. They weren't able to even go to the bathroom. They weren't able to give birth. God got involved. Therefore, you're afraid. Before that, you weren't afraid of God. So you had no problem killing me. Now you're afraid of God because obviously he showed you who he is. To a certain extent. In so many words, Avraham Avinu already tells us someone that does not have fear of God is at all times a potential murderer. At all times. The only reason he didn't kill is not because he's not a murderer. It's simply because either he did not have the opportunity, or any time he wanted to, he was more afraid of getting caught, of the loss, of the downside, of the risk of murdering, than he was afraid of this situation that he was in. Meaning he didn't not kill because he's not a murderer. He didn't kill because he viewed the other side as a bigger risk. Because if you're not afraid of God, that in so many words, you become your own God. You make your own rules. You're not afraid of anyone. So the first thing that Rav Elchonon Wasserman tells us when it comes to a Jewish leader, in any capacity whatsoever, they must have fear of God. And if we think that we can beat the system by picking the less of two evils and somehow these people are going to stay loyal to us, these people are going to keep their promise, Rav Elchonon Wasserman says the same Torah that tells us this rule that he has to have fear of God tells us that by us enabling the ziyuf, the corruption, the fakery, we will see the punishment in our lifetime where these people that we give them more responsibility are going to end up using that to insult us, to degrade us, to bring us to the dust. Behind our backs, in front of our faces. So much so, Rabotai, that he says, perhaps you have forgotten what the Gemara in Masechet Sotah says. Kol hamachnif larasha lesof nofel beyado. The Gemara in Masechet Sotah, in page 41b, says, when you flatter a wicked person, it's such a horrible thing in the eyes of God that He shows you your mistake during your lifetime, where one that flatters a wicked person will end up falling into his own hands. You say, oh wow, you're so smart, you're so this, you're so great, you're so wonderful, even though he's not. He's a murderer, he's a thief, he's an immoral person, he's an adulterer, he's a liar, he's everything. But you are kissing up to him. Why are you kissing up to him? Because you figure maybe he's going to give me a job, maybe he's going to give me a grant, maybe he's going to this, maybe he's going to do that. Yeah, but why are you lying about? Why are you saying that he's so great when you know that he's a Rasha? I'm not saying go out of your way to go insult the guy, but why are you flattering him? What? You're saying that he's good when you know he's bad. You're saying that he is smart when you know he's corrupt and he's not. You're saying that he's honest when you know he's a thief. Like, why? Oh no, because, listen, after all, he's the principal. After all, he's the Rosh Yeshiva. After all, he's the president. He's the vice president. He's the board of director. He's the this, he's the that. You're thinking that if you flatter him, it's going to help you. But the Torah promises otherwise. Anytime you flatter a wicked person, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises that eventually you'll fall into their hands. And if not into their hands because they die before they, in essence, stab you in the back, Hashem says you'll fall into the hands of His sons. And if not into the hands of His sons, you will fall into the hands of His sons' sons. As the Torah promises. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 28, verses 5 and 6. And Jeremiah the prophet says to Hananiah, Amen, so may Hashem do, may Hashem fulfill your words, that you have prophesied to return the vessels of the temple of Hashem and the entire exile from Babylonia to this palace. In so many words, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises something, just because it didn't happen exactly as you thought, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. He says, you flattered a wicked person, you're going to end up losing out of it. Oh yeah, but listen, I flattered him, he gave me the job, but then he died. The fact that he died, you're not out of risk yet. Why? He still has sons in the world. Oh, but now his sons moved away to Mars. Okay. You're still not at risk. Why? His sons have sons, the grandkids of the guy that you flattered. In so many words, at some point, you're going to suffer a consequence for flattering a wicked person. Because this is literally abominable in the eyes of Hashem. So much so that the same Gemara brings other sages that talk about how disgusting flattery of wicked people is in the eyes of Hashem. Says Rabbi Elazar, any person who has in him flattery brings anger to the world. As the Torah says in the book of Job, chapter 36, verse 13, and those with flattering hearts bring on God's anger. And not only that, says Rabbi Elazar, his prayer is not heeded, as the same Torah mentions. And they shall not cry out to him, meaning to Hashem, when he afflicts them. Meaning the fact that you flattered a wicked person is going to cause problems, much more than you can imagine. Why? You have just enabled, supported, and kashered falsehood. The exact opposite of the Torah, the exact opposite of truth. Furthermore, says Rabbi Elazar, any person who has in him flattery, even the babies in their mother's womb, curse him. A woman is pregnant, a little cute baby inside her belly, waiting to come out after 9 months. He overhears you complimenting the wicked board of directors of your local shul of reformed people. Not a single one of them keeps Shabbat, but they decide to become on the board of directors of a shul. And you're complimenting them. Oh, you guys are doing such a great job. You're so committed to the community. Wow, you really are, a light to our nation. What light to a nation? They mechaleh Shabbat, they drive on Shabbat. They don't care about the shul. They care about a position of power. They're stealing from the shul. They're corrupt people. You're giving them praise? Why? Because you want them to fund your little teachings over there. You want them to do this. You want to do different things. You want to do the same thing that politicians do. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. You're flattering people. The baby in the pregnant woman's belly is cursing you right now. The baby hates you. The baby hates you. He hasn't come to the world yet. He already hates you. He's already cursing you. What's the source of Rabbi Elazar? Shneimar, Omer l'rasha tzadik, ata yikvu amim yiz'amuhu le'umim. With the one who tells the wicked person you are righteous, the people will curse him, and the leumim, meaning the nations, will anathemize him. But the leumim also is referring to the babies. Last but not least, says Rabbi Elazar, any person who has in him flattery falls into Gehenom. As it says in the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 20, Oya omrim lara tov ela tov ra. Woe to those who say evil is good and good evil. And after that, it says in verse 24 of the book of Isaiah, L'chen ke'echol kash leshon esh v'chashash le'ava yirpa. Therefore, as the tongue of fire consumes straw and stubble will a flame pulverize. Meaning the verse, in essence, is saying that their root will be like rot and their flower will be like dust, or it's going to be blown away. This is similar to what happens to a soul that's being destroyed by the fire of Gehenom. In so many words, Rabotai, aside from having fear of God, and therefore picking the right leader, Rav Wasserman is warning us from picking the wrong leader. By thinking that, listen, we have to pick somebody that's more with the times, that's more popular. We got to bring a speaker, even though he's not exactly following halacha, even though technically according to the Torah, Rav Wasserman says, you are a flatterer. You should know that the wicked person that you're flattering will end up hurting you. And why do people flatter? Says Rav Wasserman, מפני שאנחנו רוצים להטעות את עצמנו ולהכירם ליהודים. In essence, we want to lie to ourselves and direct everyone, including ourselves, to show, these are the right leaders. Aval, says Rav Wasserman, ay, 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 ay. He says, this is all going to explode in our face. והמציאות באה ומתהפכת על פנינו. It says all of these plans that we think that we could put heretics as leaders, wicked people as leaders, people that have no Yirat Shamayim as leaders, whether it be a leader in a government, or leader in a city, or leader in a shul, leader as part of the board of directors, leader in a school, doesn't make a difference. You put somebody as a leader that does not meet the qualifications of a Torah, Rav Wasserman says the Torah itself promises that this will ultimately blow up in our faces. B'kol etu b'kol shah, in every hour, in every time, in every hour. Meaning in all time. This is relevant to all times. And in fact, they're going to do it in your face. כי הם אינם מסתירים את פרצופם כלל, ולוחמים נגד התורה ביד רמה. Because those people that you put into power, they don't hide their face. They don't pretend to be something that they're not. They're telling you things you want to hear. Say, listen, you support me? Yeah, sure. I'll build you a building for your yeshiva. You support me? I'll give you some funding that you want. But in the end, you'll see how it all blows up. It all blows up. Because he's not telling, listen, you elect me, I'll become more religious. You elect me, I'll come pray with you guys. No, he doesn't say that. He says, I'm going to stay exactly as I am. But I agree that if you put me in power, I'll hook you up. I'll give you some stuff back. He says those promises are going to be empty promises. And whatever you end up getting is just literally going to be like putting poison in your cup. It's all going to blow up in your faces. Why? Because these wicked people, they don't hide what they are. They're not trying to pretend that they're something else. They're just simply telling you that it's worth it for you to support them, which anybody would say. And that's why Rav Wasserman is in essence telling us that we have to be extremely careful with who we put into power. If you put yourself in a position where you are inviting a rabbi to your community, or you are recommending for people to watch lectures by a certain rabbi, and that rabbi is a heretic, that rabbi speaks in ways that are foreign to the Torah, they're against the Torah, but you decide to do it anyway because you figure that this is what's going to bring an audience. Or better yet, more common, you decide that you're going to have an event. And you want to have an event, you want to bring a rabbi, but you know that in order to get an audience, you have to bring some singers and different theatrics in order to get people to come. Now, there's certainly a way to celebrate, there's certainly a way to entice people to come, but you have to be very careful. Why? Because if you have singers that are betrayers of the Torah, or you have a party that is against the Torah where there's mixed dancing, or there's all types of drinking, all types of lewdness and immorality, that whole thing is going to blow up in your face. Yeah, but I'm bringing the rabbi. That's the only way I can get 500 people to come. It's better nobody comes than you doing it in a way that's against the Torah. You say, listen, I'm going to put this guy, he's going to be on the board of directors of the shul. Why? He's not religious. He drives on Shabbat. Everyone knows that his business is corrupt. Why would you put him on a board of directors? Because listen, we're a Jewish organization after all, and he's a Jew. Okay, but he's against Judaism. He doesn't keep Torah Judaism. Yeah, but listen, he's very rich. And he knows a lot of rich people, so maybe he could bring more donations to us. Oh, you think that if you put him on the board, you're going to be able to build the yeshiva with his donations? That's your mistake. That's your mistake. What you don't realize is that this same secular person that you're putting into power because he's rich is going to end up destroying your entire shul. And whatever you've built, not only you're not going to succeed in building what you want to build, whatever you've built is going to be destroyed. Why? You're bringing an enemy into your land. One fool recently tried to show how foolish he is. Was caught on camera. He's a journalist, religious. And he wanted to get the attention and highlighted for the attention from Bibi Netanyahu. So Bibi Netanyahu was walking by him. This journalist, religious journalist, says to Bibi Netanyahu, Bibi, you are the Mordechai of this generation. What chanfanut, what flattery. You know what kind of punishment he's going to get for that? You called a secular, reformer, supporter of missionaries, Mordechai of the generation. Not only you have to apologize to Mordechai, you have to apologize to all of Am Yisrael. But why did he do it? Because he figures, listen, if me as a religious journalist, I tell Bibi that I'm supporting him, he'll think that all the religious people support him, and maybe he'll more support us more, and maybe this and maybe that. No, you're not understanding how it works. Being a flatterer to wicked people is never an option. It's never an option. Unless your life's at risk. Your life wasn't at risk. You didn't have to go get his attention. He wasn't putting a sword to your neck. But people have accustomed themselves to flattering whoever is in front of them because they think that's the way to win. That's the way to win. And unfortunately, Rabotai, this is not only a problem in the politics that we have nothing to do about, like the politics of America, politics of different countries. There's nothing we can do about that. I think that, on a personal note, what Donald Trump is trying to do certainly is admirable as somebody that's trying to change in a positive way, or at least that's what it seems. Certainly, I think that it could work in a positive way for his country, for whoever lives here. Certainly, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of wars he's going to have to fight in order for that plan to work, because, saying something and doing it is two different things. There's going to be a lot more wars than what he's seen. But if it works, great. One way or the other, it's not in our hands. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to decide what. So the opinions are personal opinions, which you don't have to agree with, you don't have to disagree with. It doesn't make a difference. Politicians in Israel, same thing. We have nothing to do about it. Like Bibi, don't like Bibi, like Benny Gantz, don't like Gantz. All politicians, simply, if, for the most part, it's just self-interest, people putting themselves in power, pretending that they want the best for the people, but in reality, it's just a free ticket to do whatever they want, while pretending that they're doing what people want. There's nothing we can do about politicians of Israel. When it comes to the world of Torah, you can't choose what synagogue people are going to go to, or people are going to support, what rabbi people are going to listen to, people are going to support, or the opposite. That you can't do. What you can do is give people the rules and the guidelines. There are set rules, halacha, what Rav Wasserman is telling us, and there are certain guidelines. If you're seeing that despite the fact that your community may be growing, it's not growing more religious, it's just growing in number, then that means the Torah is not succeeding in your community. The rabbi is not succeeding. Success in the world of Torah is measured by how many more people are doing tshuva, how many more people are doing mitzvot, how many more people are learning Torah, how many more people are doing what HaShem says. That's success. So if you're a leader or leaders, whether it be a rabbi or a board of directors or whatever it is, community leaders, are celebrating growth of number, growth of buildings, growth of people, while the spiritual aspects of it are either shrinking or staying the same, then you already know that the leaders are not doing what they say they're doing, or perhaps don't even know what they're doing. And you yourself have to start thinking about an alternative plan, because if this continues, all you're going to have is the outside come inside, which in essence will affect the inside. It's actually going to hurt those that are religious. If you see that the leaders you have are supporting foreign religions, foreign customs, foreign beliefs, they admire the history of the Goyim more than they admire the history of Am Yisrael, they admire the leaders of the Goyim more than they admire the leaders of Am Yisrael, which means the tzaddikim, talmidei chachamim, of recent generation, of current generation, of past generations, then you know that the leaders are not exactly people that have fear of God. They're not exactly people that are going to grow Am Yisrael to where we need to be. And if you ever have the ability to put somebody in power or influence other people to put somebody in power, the number one requirement of a leader, regardless of whether they're a leader of an entire shul or even a small little class of 5 kids, is the level of Yirat Shamayim that a person has. Now, if you're going to say, wait, but how do I know if he has Yirat Shamayim or he doesn't have Yirat Shamayim? If you don't know, that means there's something missing. Meaning that Yirat Shamayim is something that you can tell, at least to a certain extent, based on the person's behavior. If this person eats wherever they want, walks the way they want, talks the way they want, obviously they don't have Yirat Shamayim. Yirat Shamayim is something that you see on somebody's demeanor, somebody's behavior. So, if the person that you have ability to put into power has no Yirat Shamayim, then he doesn't qualify. Even if he's rich, even if he's smart, even if he's connected, even, he has all the qualifications in the world. He has no Yirat Shamayim, not allowed to put him in a position of power. So, that's the rule. The guideline is that if you've already made the mistake and have chosen the wrong leader, a part of a corrupt system, don't think that somehow at some point it's going to fix itself over time. Only way that it gets fixed is if it's uprooted and changed with what the Torah says has to happen. The wrong leader will not become the right leader. The corrupt will not become the just. Don't be like the fools that think that the evolution makes sense because it's over a long period of time. A long period of time. Yeah, well, how did the amoeba become the monkey? Oh, it was a long period of time. I don't care how much time. Why would it become a monkey? and then later on a zebra, and then later on a cat, and then later on a butterfly. No, it's over a long period of time. It's a stupid logic. Don't have that same false logic, the thinking that, listen, it's gone wrong all this time, but eventually it's going to work. No, if it's on a wrong path, it's going to continue being on the wrong path. And in fact, the longer the path, the further it's going to be from where you want it to be. So the guideline here is to make sure that if there's a mistake that you could recognize now, based on now knowing the rule of Yirat Shamayim, of fear of God requirements, the way to fix it is very simple. Uproot, break what you have, and start anew. Replace it with what the Torah says. Replace it with what Torah says. If you see that the number one thing in your shul, in your house, in your class, in your family that's discussed is news and politics, you can't just say, listen, maybe if we add a little bit of Torah to the politics, then it's going to become better. No, it's not. It's not going to become better. You have to uproot it. You have to make times where it's forbidden to speak politics or anything else other than Torah. Now, of course, you can't get people to stop everything from that to zero, but there has to be times where it's 100% what Torah says. You speak Torah, speak what we're supposed to speak about. You have to make that change. And changes have to sometimes be much more drastic than you think is possible. But that's what's necessary. The third thing is, when it comes to leaders, whether it be Jewish leaders or non-Jewish leaders, be very, very careful when it comes to flattering. Be very careful when it comes to flattering. Why? If you flatter a wicked person, the Torah promises this is so detestable in the eyes of HaShem that there's literally a punishment you're going to live to see. Now, there are certain times where working with wicked people is necessary because there's no better choice. But even then, you have to be very careful. Rav Ephraim's rabbi, when he was younger in yeshiva, was Rav Baruch Shimon Salomon. He was big tzaddik, Yirat Shamayim. He refused to live a lie even for half a second. There was a wicked mayor that was against the Torah, against everything. But the people wanted to make peace between him and the rabbi because the rabbi wanted to extend the yeshiva. Wanted to get another building, and it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have, without getting the permission of the city, meaning the mayor, it's not happening. You're not going to get the approval. So they arranged a event where, I don't know, hundreds of people came, all the kids from the yeshiva, everybody came, and they invited this mayor. And they figured if the mayor shake his hand, to become friendly, he'll approve the building. And the mayor knew that the rabbi doesn't care for him because he's a rasha. It's against the Torah. Chalil Shabbat, and he did things to go against the Torah and influence people to go against the Torah. So anyway, he wanted to get the rabbi on his side. So he came to this thing, and the rabbi, Rav Ephraim tells me, he was there. He was watching the whole thing. The rabbi was like literally shaking, didn't want to, shake his hand, didn't want to pretend even for a second. But finally, when it came to it, they were on the stage, and the rabbi literally barely reached his hand to shake his hand, barely gave him his hand, and they shook hands. People got excited. The politicians made a big deal out of it. But then one of the bachurim in the yeshiva took it a little step too far, and he brought a cup of wine to give, as a celebration for this, this new friendship. And he wanted to give the mayor this cup of wine. Even though there's hundreds of people there, Rabbi Shimon Solomon says to go, no, it's too much. Don't give it to him. Don't flatter this guy. Don't flatter him. Plus, of course, if it's wine, it could, if he doesn't keep Shabbat, he makes it yain nesech. Of course, the mayor saw and heard this, especially in front of everyone. He ran away, and the building was never approved even until this day, 20 years later. So on one hand, you'd say, listen, if he would have just simply closed his eye, let that happen, maybe the building will be built. You have to understand, when tzaddikim, they know that the line between, the line that goes between flattery and something that's permissible, it's very, very thin. And below you is the abyss. Below you is the fire of Gehinnom. And therefore, a person has to be extremely careful who they're flattering. Rami Ponovich had a big Israeli flag that he put on his building. Of course, he wasn't supportive of the Zionists and all their heresy. But he put this Israeli flag on the building. One day, one of the zealots of the community, of the religious community, the Haredi community, came and wanted to take down the whole flag. The people told him, what are you doing? Don't touch it. He goes, what do you mean? These are Zionists. These are, this is the Israeli flag. We don't stand for this. And this Chacham told him, listen, what does it bother you? The flag? The flag is not a religious stand. There's nothing religious about the flag. And it's also not a confirmation that we agree with the heretical, atheist, communist ideology. All it is a piece of fabric that brings money so we can support more Torah. So these secular Zionists that hate the Torah and hate everything, we're not going to change them, but they're kids, they're people, they're this. In order for us to continue building the yeshiva bigger and bigger, get more and more people to learn Torah, we have to have not only funding, but we also have to have permission from the government. So in order for us to get this, if we need to put this little piece of fabric on the building, and that's what brings it in, what difference is it to us? We're not agreeing with their ideology. We're not supporting their ideology. It's not a religious symbol. What do we care about this flag? This is the ticket we need to have in order to get more Torah in the world. Rabbi Ponovich says that's what we have to do. But that's because a Gadol b'Yisrael like Rabbi Ponovich knew exactly how thin that line is between forbidden flattery and what you're allowed to do in order to publicize Torah, in order to have peace, in order to create peace. And he also is very much aware of the abyss that's under it if you fall off that line. So when a person has a meeting with somebody else, or an opportunity with somebody else that's in a position of authority, a position of power, you have to think twice before you flatter that person, because there are certainly certain things that you're allowed to say, and there's no problem with them, but there are certain things that are absolute forbidden. To go and, let's say, for example, praise somebody for their great success in their business, it's not a problem. As long as you know this guy's not corrupt and it's really pretending to be success in business, but in reality he's killing people. To go and tell somebody like Elon Musk, wow, chazaku ba'uch for being so successful in all of your business endeavors, there's no problem with such a thing. To tell Donald Trump, chazaku ba'uch for beating your foes and getting back into presidency, or doing this plan that you're trying to to fix the broken system, chazaku ba'uch, there's no problem with that. Because it's, number one, it's true. And number two, It's not something, you're not praising something falsely. Or something that's somehow contradicting the Torah. But to go and tell somebody, listen, Chazaku Baruch for you being so welcoming and inviting missionaries to your synagogue. Such a thing is going to bring both of you curses, both of you problems. Oh, Chazaku Baruch for not getting found out by your wife that you're cheating on her. For doing such a thing, don't be surprised if your wife cheats on you. Meaning that a person needs to know where there's permissible praise and when there's forbidden flattery. Don't be one of those people that kisses up to people because you figure that's the cost of doing business or that's what's necessary to do. Everything has to be done with the Torah ideology behind it as a foundation. Whether it's choosing a leader, replacing a leader, and by leader I don't just mean somebody at the top of the food chain. It could literally also mean a teacher. It can mean people that are in authority of something small too. The Torah ideology has to be behind it, and needless to say, in the way that we communicate, whether it be about Jewish leaders, non-Jewish leaders. There are certain things that are permissible and recommended. Certain things are permissible but not recommended. And then there are certain things that are simply outright forbidden. And a person that wants to live a life of Torah and survive this war of Amalek has to know all of them. Because the line is thin and the abyss is right below us. We have the ability and the tools to get to where we want to be without breaking the rules. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we succeed in doing so. Thank you very much for learning with me. May Hashem bless each and every one of you that supports and continues to share these lectures and donates and helps us continue growing the world of Torah to get more and more people to know exactly how to handle the situations in their day-to-day lives and in the world that we live in today. Anyone that wants to donate could donate on the website, be'ezrathashem.org. As I mentioned, you could donate through credit card, cryptocurrency, send checks. You could even donate, precious metals and things of that nature. The point is, if you want to support, there's plenty of ways to do it. There are even people that are donating their profession. There are people that have certain professions. We specifically looking for people that have very good in regards to marketing and development. People know how to code and people know how to do things like that. If you have the ability and you have serious amount of time that you're able to do it, not just something that you're going to do random whenever you have a chance. If you are able to do that, certainly that's going to help us. And even that can be counted as a donation, not just spiritually, but also monetarily. So anyone that wants to be a part of it, there's plenty of ways to help. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we could all publicize HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, go in the right path, and Be'ezrat Hashem get more and more people to come along with us. Call to B'chava Aztacham. Be'ezrat Hashem will study again very soon.
I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend. We did it. AI Rabbi is here. It's an AI model that is based on kosher Torah sources, 30 different languages that are available to you. So if you want to ask it in Spanish, in Chinese, Portuguese, whatever you want to do, it's available for you. Can you tell me about Rabbi Akiva? So it's time-stamped to the Shiur. You press this green button, AI Rabbi on your WhatsApp. You'll have the ability to ask questions at will. You'll be provided sources, and most importantly, you'll be able to know the truth and be able to rely on the sources.